I never imagined that a single phone call would end my relationship with my parents forever. 3 days after a terrifying car accident, I was lying in a hospital bed recovering from emergency surgery while my newborn daughter slept beside me. I was scared, exhausted, and desperately needed help. So I called the two people who had spent my entire life telling me that family always comes first. My parents. What they said next shocked even the nurse standing beside me. They refused to come. Not because they couldn't. Because they didn't want to. But the real story isn't about the people who abandoned me. It's about the one person who didn't. Because a few hours later my grandfather walked through that hospital door. And what happened next changed everything. 6 weeks after giving birth to my daughter Emma, I thought the hardest part was behind me. I was exhausted, sleep-deprived, and still adjusting to life as a new mom, but every time I looked at her tiny face, none of it seemed to matter. That Tuesday afternoon, I buckled Emma into her car seat and started the short drive home from a pediatric appointment. The traffic was light. The weather was clear. Everything felt normal. Then a pickup truck ran a red light. I never even saw it coming. The impact spun my car across the intersection. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. For a few terrifying seconds, all I could hear was Emma crying. My first thought wasn't about myself. It was my baby. Paramedics arrived within minutes. Thankfully, Emma was unharmed, but I wasn't as lucky. At the hospital, doctors explained that I had suffered several injuries and needed emergency surgery. "You'll recover," the surgeon assured me. "But we need to operate soon." My heart sank. "Who will take care of my baby?" I asked. There was only one answer. My parents. I called my mother immediately. "Mom, I've been in a car accident," I said, fighting back tears. "I need surgery. Can you and Dad come get Emma for a day or two?" There was a long pause. Then she sighed. "Oh, honey, this is really bad timing." "Bad timing?" I stared at the phone in disbelief. "We're helping your sister prepare for her Caribbean cruise tomorrow," she continued. "Everything is already planned." "Mom, I'm in a hospital." "I know, but your sister never has these emergencies. She needs us right now." The words hit harder than the accident. Not because they surprised me. Because deep down they didn't. My entire life my sister came first. And even lying in a hospital bed after a crash, nothing had changed. After my mother hung up, I just sat there staring at the phone. Part of me expected it to ring again. I kept telling myself she would call back and say she'd made a mistake. That she and Dad were already on their way. The call never came. Instead, a nurse gently touched my shoulder. "Do you have anyone else who can help?" she asked. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to name a relative, a family friend, anybody. But the truth was painfully simple. My parents were the people I always turned to in emergencies. And they had just chosen a vacation over their daughter and granddaughter. Within an hour, I was signing paperwork for emergency childcare services recommended by the hospital social worker. The cost made my stomach drop. I had already been worried about medical bills, maternity leave, and all the expenses that came with a newborn. Now I was paying even more just to make sure Emma would be safe while I was in surgery. But I had no choice. As nurses prepared me for the operating room, my phone remained silent. No calls from Mom. No calls from Dad. Not even a text asking if I was okay. Lying there, I couldn't stop thinking about my sister. Growing up, she always seemed to live by a different set of rules. If she forgot responsibilities, my parents rushed to help. If she made bad decisions, someone always rescued her. Meanwhile, I was expected to figure everything out on my own. They called it independence. They called it maturity. But sitting alone in that hospital bed, I finally saw it for what it was. Favoritism. For years, I had convinced myself things would eventually balance out. That when something truly serious happened, my parents would be there. Yet when I needed them most, they didn't hesitate. They picked my sister. Just like they always had. And for the first time in my life, I started wondering whether I should stop expecting anything different. My surgery went well. Physically, the doctors said I would make a full recovery. Emotionally was a different story. The day after surgery, while Emma was safely being cared for through the emergency service, I found myself scrolling through my banking app. At first, I was simply checking balances. Then I started noticing something. For years, there had been a steady stream of transfers going to my parents. Some were small. Some were enormous. As I scrolled farther back, memory after memory came rushing back. The time Dad needed help replacing his roof. The months mom struggled with medical expenses, the emergency repairs on their car, the utility bills they couldn't cover. Every single time they called, I helped. Not because they demanded it, because they were my parents, because family mattered. At least that's what I believed. I opened my records and started adding everything together. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, then all 9 years. When the final number appeared on the screen, I actually thought I had made a mistake. I checked it twice, then a third time. The total came to nearly $486,000. I stared at the figure in disbelief. Almost $500,000. Money that could have gone toward a larger home. Emma's future education. Retirement savings. Family vacations. Instead, I had gladly given it away whenever my parents needed help. And now, when I needed them for one of the biggest emergencies of my life, they couldn't spare a single day. Not one day. The realization hit me harder than anything the doctors had told me. My parents had never expected my sister to sacrifice for them. They had expected it from me. I was the dependable one. The responsible one. The one who always stepped in. But lying in that hospital bed, I finally understood something. Being appreciated and being used can feel almost identical. Until the day you stop being useful. And suddenly, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. The morning after that realization, I was sitting alone in my hospital room, staring out the window while Emma slept peacefully in a bassinet beside me. For the first time since the accident, the room felt unbearably quiet. Then there was a knock at the door. Before I could answer, it opened. And in walked my grandfather. For a second, I thought I was imagining things. Grandpa. He crossed the room faster than I'd seen him move in years. The moment he reached my bedside, he wrapped me in a careful hug. "Oh, sweetheart," he said softly. I came as soon as I heard. The knot in my chest finally broke. I started crying immediately. Not because of the accident. Not because of the surgery. But because someone had shown up. Someone had chosen me. Grandpa sat beside my bed and listened while I told him everything. The accident. The surgery. My parents refusing to help. The childcare arrangements. Every painful detail. The deeper into the story I got, the darker his expression became. "They really said no?" he asked quietly. I nodded. His jaw tightened. Then he looked over at Emma sleeping peacefully. "That's their granddaughter." I could hear the disappointment in his voice. Not anger. Disappointment. Which somehow felt even heavier. After a long silence, I opened my banking app and showed him the records I'd been reviewing. Transfer after transfer. Year after year. He adjusted his glasses and stared at the screen. Then he looked back at me. "You've given them all this?" "Almost 9 years," I said. His eyes widened. When I finally showed him the total, he leaned back in his chair. For several seconds he didn't speak. Then he shook his head slowly. "Family should never mistake kindness for obligation." Those words stayed with me. Before he left that evening, Grandpa squeezed my hand and gave me one piece of advice. "Take care of your daughter first. Protect your future. And stop carrying people who wouldn't carry you." For the first time since the accident, I felt something unexpected. Hope. A week after I returned home, I made the hardest decision of my life. I stopped sending money to my parents. No dramatic announcement. No argument. No warning. I simply ended every transfer. For the first month, they didn't notice. By the second month, the phone calls started. First came confusion. Then concern. Then frustration. Finally, my mother called demanding an explanation. "Why haven't you sent anything?" she asked. I took a deep breath. Because I needed my family during an emergency and they weren't there. Silence filled the line. Then came excuses. Schedules. Obligations. Misunderstandings. For the first time, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't try to earn their approval. I simply said, "I'm focusing on Emma and our future now." Then I ended the call. Grandpa supported my decision completely. Over the following months, my recovery improved. The medical bills got paid. Emma grew stronger every day. And slowly so did I. The accident had left scars. But it had also revealed the truth. I finally understood that family isn't defined by titles. It's defined by actions. By who answers the phone. By who shows up when life falls apart. When I look at my daughter now, I think about the example I want to set for her. And one lesson stands above all others. Real love doesn't make excuses. Real love shows up. And thankfully, when I needed it most, one person did. Sometimes the hardest moments in life reveal who truly belongs in your corner. My parents walked away when I needed them most, but my grandfather showed me what real family looks like. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories every week.